The ultimate goal is to create an image that gives emotion to my client and to myself. If somebody writes to me and wants like a Scarface sleeve and they got, $100 grand, well, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna do it, but I'm not gonna do something that my soul isn't in. What's up, GQ? Snuffy, we're gonna be looking at some of my tattoos. I love Machine Gun Kelly. He's one of the hardest working people I know and inspiration of mine. I've actually done quite a bit of tattoos on him, but they're all in like hidden places, back of the legs and stuff, because he's already covered. He's always got his shirt off and stuff. The first piece I did for Machine Gun Kelly, you have one boy who's boxing, and then you have, I think it's Joe DiMaggio with life on his head. It's like super ironic, just like slap in the face kind of imagery. You fight really hard in life in a certain direction, but life's got its own plans. The way my process is, everyone has to write me a story. I reread that story and sort of like DJ a bunch of images together until it makes me feel something. In order to create timeless pieces, I pull images from pre-1970 all the time. The focus isn't the fashion, it's more about the motion or the action of the person. With regards to the life piece is what we call like a sticker tattoo. So it can kind of just get slapped anywhere. It doesn't really fit the contours of the body. The greatest challenge with that piece was, I think I got to his house around 12 and he had to be on the floor seat of the Lakers game by 5:30. So I only had like 3 hours or something to actually tattoo. No piece of art is ever really done, so I could have spent 5 hours or 6 hours doing it, but yeah, I was on power mode that time. With regards to the blindfold tattoo that I did on the back of his leg, that one more so fits the contour of his body. The piece like funnels down to kind of match the shape of the leg. The piece is meant to represent all the yes people in Los Angeles, and anyone that knows Houdini knows that he didn't die in that trick. Despite all of the people who were kind of fake, he still managed to make it to the top, and now he's got #1 album. Instead of putting kind of a clasp or something that's gonna hold the chain, I really thought it would kind of take away from the two important pieces, which is the humans on top and Houdini on the bottom. The way I describe my work is black and gray surrealism. The fun part about creating surrealism is that it doesn't need something to hold it there. There's no gravity on the tattoo. The idea is to just convey a message however possible. With the Hotel Diablo tattoo on the back of Kel's head, we were in the studio and it was like early hours of the morning, just talking about what the album means. Each song was kind of a room inside of the hotel, and the whole hotel was his brain. So the entrance to the hotel was his head. We did the Hotel Diablo logo on the back of his head, and then it just like all kind of made sense. He was like, let's do it when they were doing the cover shoot. And then Justin Campbell, who's a great photographer, took some amazing photos probably 5 minutes after I tattooed him. And then actually Kel's tattooed that logo on me. I had him tattoo it on my leg. The other piece, Kel's was here in New York shooting his scenes in King of Staten Island, Pete's movie. Yeah, I got a call to come over to Pete Davidson's house. He's like, yo, I really need you to tattoo the back of my neck. It was like the first time I ever met Pete, and I'm just like tattooing Kel's. Yeah, his mom was like cooking food and it was like, 3 in the morning. I actually was pretty mad because that was a piece that I really wanted on myself. It just represents this like struggle within, like we're in our own jail. I've done a load of tattoos on Pete, like an astronomical amount of tattoos on him. They're just all like tucked away and they're just not advertised. A few months subsequent to tattooing Kel's at Pete's house, I was in Sweden and I get a text, yo, this is Pete Davidson. Can you come tattoo me tomorrow? I came up with this piece for the back of his shoulder, which is mostly line work. It's pretty much spears with the heads of like dead idols, which are cartoon characters. So I flew back from Sweden, came back to Brooklyn, grabbed my shit straight from the airport, went to his crib, fucking tattooed him till 9 in the morning. I don't like to do that shit, man. It's like very exhausting. Tattooing when you're tired is really kind of like not such a bad thing because you're too tired to think about anything else. You're just like, sick, this is what I'm doing. Kind of calm, really light hand. I make sure that I stencil as well as I can. I study the design that I created so that I don't have to think too much while I'm doing it. The second I pick up the machine, I don't look at my phone. I'm busy. And the only thing I'm doing is focusing on a piece of skin from 6 inches away, and it's very therapeutic. The leg tattoo I did on Pete, oh, I fucking love that tattoo. He wanted a tribute to all of his comedy gods. So instead of going with that classic face on top of face on top of face on top of face and covering the thing, I try to use a lot of negative space, and it puts the attention on the tattoo instead of just like covering the whole skin. So I hung them in picture frames around his leg. First thing I did was I Sharpied the chains on them to see where to place the frames. Once the Sharpie was on there, then I put the frames on him, and then I took the faces and put them inside the frames. Well, excuse you. What makes a good portrait is the whole technical application. It's really just like this human's face that you have to sculpt. I think the most difficult thing is achieving like perfect gradient shading or having a tattoo with multiple different textures. I think that's actually way more difficult than pulling a straight line. At this point, it's just muscle memory in the sense, this is where I have to start, this is where I have to end, and I just knock that out and move on. There's many different needle groupings. I use primarily liners or mags. Well, the smallest one is a single one, so it's just one needle. But then you have like a 3, which is the next like grouping up, which you basically have 3 needles grouped in a triangle, and then it goes in odd numbers in this same grouping shape. With a tight 3, I can achieve what pretty much looks like a single needle tattoo. The reason I like to use the 3 is because the ink sits in between the 3 needles inside this thing and travels down. And that doesn't occur with the single needle. The single needle, the ink comes around it, so sometimes it doesn't actually come out. And then you're just like tattooing a needle, and then it's just blood. And then the 5 magnum is what I like to use for shading. The magnum is the shape, and then number 5 is how many needles. Griffin Gluck tattoo was hilarious. Pete flew us all out to the taping of his special. We get on the plane and I'm like, yo, Griff, I'm gonna tattoo you on this airplane. And he's like, word, let's do it. So like, I've scoping the area. I'll make sure that the stewards and the flight attendants are not paying attention. And I'm just like, shake up the ink bottle. I'm like talking to Griffin. I'm like ready to go. I'm like, all right, word. So I'm just gonna like freestyle it. And I'm looking at him, I open the ink bottle. I didn't realize the pressurized cabin, the ink just sprays all over my face in coach. I'm like, oh, so I got ink all over me and everything. So I'm like, wipe all the off. I'm like, whatever, wipe it, still got some on my face. I'm like, here, give me your arm. Put his arm on the table, and I just did like a little smiley face on him. And that was it, I tattooed Griffin Gluck in coach on a commercial flight. There's a huge difference tattooing out in the world outside of my own studio because I have to like bring my mobile like setup with me. I'm used to it, and I just like really like pared it down to like a very clean setup. There are many tattoo machines. There's basically coil machines, which are those loud ones, and then there's rotary machines, which are these, which are the quieter ones. The rotary machines have a motor that goes in a circle, and then you have the needle bar, which goes on this nub, and this thing kind of like, there's a circle and then this goes back and forth, boom, 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 right. The first machine I ever used is the Bishop Rotary V6. It's an amazing machine. Shout out to Franco. The guy made some amazing stuff. He's also a great tattooer. This machine is called a Dragonfly. Now this power supply When you go fast, the needle's entering the skin more times, and when you go slow, it enters the skin less times. This machine, I can adjust how much give. When I spin this, the needle will be kind of like a little bit bouncier on the skin, so I can really go a little bit like softer. When I tattoo athletes and when I tattoo really muscular people, I like to make the machine softer and I like to run it a little bit slower. But the machine that I've been using the most is the Zion FK irons. I can adjust the settings on this as well, hard and soft, same thing. I think I tattooed like damn near all the people we talked about with this machine right here. Bad boy. That was a super fun tattoo. We just pulled up to chill, like it wasn't even for, I was not intending to tattoo him at all. We went to get some food around the corner, and he had just got a diamond tennis bracelet. He looked down at his wrist and it was gone. From the time we were here, ate food and came back, he had lost his tennis bracelet. So I was like, all right, I'll give you something that you can't lose. So I made this tattoo for him, and he's like a really big like charity dude. At the time we were discussing like the rhinos going extinct. I did a little bit of stippling, which is what the dot work would be called, on it. It's a skill in itself. There's people who do really light flowers, and on the petals they'll create shape by lowering the machine and moving the hand pretty fast, and it creates dots that go like whoosh, whoosh, right in a line, in a direction. Because the hand is always being used, you're always washing your hands, it's always in the sun, the tattoos tend to fade. That's life. I've seen people with really thin lines and it's been there for 10 years, and I've seen people with thin lines that have disappeared. But that's the wabi-sabi thing. It's like, there's character in things that are f***ed up. Hannah Cider. For the kids, it's an old school phone, like a pay phone, and it's just off the hook. Like, can't reach me. That tattoo is pretty much just having to do with society being glued to the phone. Hannah loves that tattoo, but she always likes to go, hello, hello, every time, so. I'm just an empty vehicle, and my client's story is the fuel for that vehicle. So ultimately comes both of our stories. It's me identifying with my client, putting myself in their shoes, creating a story from that. And people are coming in here and really it's a therapy session for both of us every time. A recent one that I did is like an arc with the eyeballs inside the arcs, and they're all crying and all the water's running through the mouth into a bucket with holes in it. And that's a recent tattoo that I'm absolutely in love with. I adore that tattoo. But it's a very powerful tattoo that's attached to a very powerful story. This person had trouble being alive. It's kind of saying that everyone's watching but no one's listening. This one is one that has to do with battling addiction. It seems like it's all under control, but the ground's falling out beneath him. He's got a monkey on his back. The monkey seems to be juggling pretty well, but he's cheating because it's glued to the sticks, and you got the addiction creeping up behind the monkey. I'm coming up on 10 years of sobriety, so I identified with this story quite well. This is more of a heritage piece. Her mother passed away from a lung disease, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I thought it was really beautiful. You have the woman who's walking forward, which is the client, who's continuing in life without forgetting. This is one of my all-time favorite tattoos because it's a simple tattoo that covers a large area. You have a person at the bottom who's reaching for help, and then you have a bunch of people up top that are offering their help. People on the top are all reaching down and they have keys hanging off because the person on the bottom is in handcuffs. The person in the bottom is asking for help but doesn't realize that there's a key hanging off their own hand. Being a tattooer has required me to learn how to take photographs, be a therapist, shave men, be personable, be on, and create a fucking piece that's gonna sit on your body forever that means something, and then execute it. It's a lot of so it takes a lot of energy. The longer I do it, the more of a challenge it becomes because I'm kind of like using up ideas. After I do a tattoo that I'm immensely proud of, I'm like, I think I'm done. Like, you know, it's like there's nothing left, you know? But somehow, some way, more stuff comes, and then I make other things that I'm also proud of, and then it goes out into the world.